The summer heat. Griffin, Georgia. The kind of town where summer feels like it carries a grudge. The pavement sizzles, the air is thick, and suspicion floats heavier than pollen. Nestled between Atlanta and oblivion, Griffin isn't the kind of place that makes the headlines. Not unless something burns. But something was already smoldering. And everyone in the Black community felt it. Police patrols tripled after an incident downtown where a teen was caught spraying graffiti on an abandoned storefront. The city council, pushed by growing conservative pressure, demanded order. And the mayor, Garrett Langston, polished his words for the press while ignoring the heartbeat of the neighborhoods that never voted for him. In East Griffin, 17-year-old Micah Lawson knew how to move like smoke. Invisible, quiet, careful. He walked home from his summer volunteer shift at the community center with headphones in and hoodie up, even though the sun was still out. In Griffin, Black boys didn't get the luxury of carelessness. Micah lived with his mother, Sheila Lawson, a nurse who worked night shifts and still managed to pack his lunch. He was a debate team star, a scholarship hopeful, and the kind of kid who read case law for fun. His eyes, almond-shaped and quietly observant, saw everything, including what others refused to. He knew his city was changing. He felt it when police SUVs idled outside the park, when stores started closing early, when his friends stopped riding their bikes after 7 p.m. And most of all, he felt it the first time he heard the name, Officer Greg Turner. Turner had a reputation. He didn't patrol, he hunted. Short-tempered, tall, buzz-cut, and always armed to the teeth. Internal Affairs had reviewed him twice. Nothing stuck. Micah hadn't encountered him yet. But that was about to change. Target on his back. It started with the convenience store. Micah was walking home with a Gatorade and a pack of gum when Turner pulled up beside him. No sirens. Just that slow, stalking roll of the cruiser. "Hey, hoodie," Turner barked from the open window. "What did you stuff in your pockets?" Micah froze. He didn't turn. He'd been coached on this. Hands visible, no sudden moves. Use yes sir and no sir. Don't argue. Don't talk back. He lifted his hands slowly. "I just bought this from the Shell station, sir. Want to see the receipt?" Turner got out of the car. He walked over, slow and imposing. "You look like someone who stole a phone last week," he said. Micah held his breath. He was taller than most kids his age, lean and calm. But in this moment, he felt 12 again. Small. Voiceless. Turner patted him down. Rough. Purposefully humiliating. "What's your name?" "Micah. Micah Lawson." Turner stared into his eyes. Too long. Then, without another word, he got back into his cruiser and drove off. Micah stood still, his gum and drink warming in the sun. A woman walking her dog gave him a sympathetic look. But she didn't say a word. It was the first of 3 stops that month. Turner seemed to always appear. At the park. Near his bus stop. At the library parking lot. Micah told his mom once. She listened, jaw clenched, but just said, "Just keep your head down, baby. Just make it to college." But Micah couldn't sleep. He started writing everything down. Date. Time. Location. Description. Like a case file. It was how he processed fear. The park incident. The final straw came on a Saturday. Micah and 2 friends were at Memorial Park, tossing a football around near the courts. It was early afternoon. Families were everywhere. Nothing loud, nothing aggressive. Until a woman's purse went missing from a picnic bench. Within 10 minutes, cops were swarming. Turner was one of them. "You 3. Hands on your heads. Sit on the ground." Micah didn't argue. But his friend Malik did. "We didn't do anything. I was over there." Turner shoved him down. "You think I care what your lying mouth says, huh?" Micah sat frozen. His eyes locked with a little girl crying beside the monkey bars. They were searched. Nothing was found. The real thief turned out to be a kid who'd already fled the scene. Turner didn't apologize. He knelt beside Micah and said quietly, "You're always around when something happens. That makes you interesting." Then he walked off. Micah knew then, Turner wasn't just dangerous. He was watching him, and he had no idea who Micah really was. The mayor's hidden connection to Micah. A violent incident in a parking lot. The moment everything changes. The mayor's secret. Shall I continue with part 2 now? Mayor Garrett Langston sat behind his polished mahogany desk, half listening to a staffer recite polling numbers. But his eyes were locked on a photo that sat tucked in a drawer. A photo of Sheila Lawson holding a newborn wrapped in a blue blanket. Micah. No one in the press knew. Not even his wife. The affair had happened when he was still a city attorney. One mistake, he told himself. One hidden truth. He'd sent money anonymously, made sure Sheila had housing and health care. But he'd never shown his face. Now he was the most powerful man in Griffin. And Micah had grown up just a few miles away, a stranger, yet flesh of his flesh. The city trembles. Micah had just left the library downtown. It was late, almost 9 p.m. The parking lot was nearly empty. He opened his car door when he heard the voice. Viral Inferno. Out of the vehicle. Hands up. Now. The video of Turner choking Micah wasn't just shared. It exploded. It was Turner by midday. Major media outlets picked it up. Civil rights activists retweeted it with fury. Local clergy called for accountability. And high school students began organizing a walkout. Micah turned slowly, his heart thudding. Lay in bed, still sore, still guilt of the bloodline. The video hit the internet the next morning. Mayor Langston stood in front of the mirror, tie undone, face pale. Micah had spent the night in the ER. Bruised trachea. Mild concussion. His mother stood by his bed, shaking with rage he hadn't eaten. Couldn't sleep. The silence in his house was suffocating. And for the first time in his career, he was truly afraid. "We're going to court," she said. "I don't care who he is. I don't care how many badges he has. Not for his position. Not for the election." By noon, #Justice for Micah was trending, but for the reckoning that awaited him as a father who had abandoned his son. And by 6 p.m., Mayor Langston saw the video. He met Sheila Lawson at a quiet diner outside of town. He dropped his phone. She didn't shake his hand. There was no mistaking it. The boy on the screen, gasping for air under Turner's arm, was the boy in the photo. "You knew," she said coldly. "You knew who he was. And you did nothing." His son Langston's voice cracked. He whispered it like a prayer. "I thought if I stayed away, he'd have a normal life." "Micah, there's no such thing in this skin," Sheila said. "Especially not in this city." And for the first time in his career, he didn't know what to do. He handed her a folder. Legal contacts. Support funds. A public apology draft. "I want to do right by him. By both of you. Then resign," she said, standing. "Resign and help him fight." Micah speaks. The cover-up begins. The mayor wrestles with his guilt. Micah regains strength and finds his voice. A week after the assault, Micah stood on the steps of Griffin Courthouse. The crowd stretched across the plaza. News crews, students, local pastors, survivors of police brutality. All holding signs. Micah clutched the mic. Cameras zoomed in. He took a breath. "My name is Micah Lawson. I'm 17. I'm an honors student. I volunteer at the East Griffin Community Center. I'm on the debate team. And I was nearly killed for being black, alone, and walking home." Gasps. Murmurs. "Officer Greg Turner choked me. He tried to erase me. But I'm still here. And I remember every second." He held up a journal. "This is everything I've documented for the past year. Every encounter. Every time I was followed. Every slur, every shove. This is my proof." He paused. "And today I'm pressing charges. Not just against Turner, but against a system that enabled him." The crowd erupted. Mayor Langston stood at the back of the crowd, tears in his eyes. His son had found his voice. The trial begins. He hadn't eaten. Couldn't sleep. The silence in his house was suffocating. And for the first time in his career, he was truly afraid. Inside the Griffin County Courthouse, the air buzzed with electricity. Protesters crowded the steps outside. News vans lined the street. Police presence tripled overnight. Not for his position. Not for the election. Micah sat at the plaintiff's table beside his lawyer, a sharp-witted civil rights attorney from Atlanta named Dana Ricks. But for the reckoning that awaited him as a father who had abandoned his son across the room. Officer Turner looked smaller than ever. The man who once wielded power with casual cruelty now tugged nervously at his collar. He met Sheila Lawson at a quiet diner outside of town. Opening statements began. She didn't shake his hand. Dana's voice echoed. "This is not just about one boy. This is about a system built to silence the innocent and shield the guilty." "You knew," she said coldly. "You knew who he was. And you did nothing." Turner's defense played the usual card: misunderstanding, protocol, fear. But the jury didn't flinch. Langston's voice cracked. The courtroom knew. Everyone knew. The video had spoken first. "I thought if I stayed away, he'd have a normal life." "There's no such thing in this skin," Sheila said. "Especially not in this city." He handed her a folder. Legal contacts. Support funds. A public apology draft. "I want to do right by him. By both of you. Then resign, she said, standing. Resign and help him fight. And now the city would have to listen. Mayor Langston stood in front of the mirror, tie undone, face pale. Micah speaks, breaking the blue wall. A week after the assault, Micah stood on the steps of Griffin Courthouse. The first few witnesses were expected. Micah's friends, the woman who filmed the assault, Micah Lawson. The crowd stretched across the plaza. News crews, students, local pastors, survivors of police brutality. All holding signs, but the trial cracked open when a surprise witness was called. Micah clutched the mic. Cameras zoomed in Officer DeAndre James. He took a breath. A fellow cop. Black. Rookie. My name is Micah Lawson. I'm 17. I'm an honors student. I volunteer at the East Griffin Community Center. I'm on the debate team. And I was nearly killed for being black, alone, and walking home. He took the stand, trembling. Gasps. Murmurs. I've seen Turner stop boys who looked like Micah before. Rough them up. Talk like they weren't human. We all saw it. No one said anything. Officer Greg Turner choked me. He tried to erase me. But I'm still here. And I remember every second. Gasps. He held up a journal. The prosecution leaned in. Why speak now? This is everything I've documented for the past year. Every encounter. Every time I was followed. Every slur, every shove. This is my proof. James's voice faltered. Because I see myself in him. And I have a son. And I can't live knowing I stayed silent. He paused outside. The crowd roared. And today I'm pressing charges. Not just against Turner, but against a system that enabled him. Inside, Turner slouched lower. The crowd erupted. Mayor Langston stood at the back of the crowd. Tears in his eyes. His son had found his voice. And now the city would have to listen. Turner's trial begins. Explosive testimonies surface. Micah's full identity is revealed. It happened during cross-examination. A slip. A whisper. Dana Ricks turned to Mayor Langston, seated near the back. You've watched this whole trial. You've seen the tapes, the evidence, the trauma. But you've yet to publicly denounce the officer who nearly killed your son. The courtroom froze. Objection, the defense barked. Withdrawn, Dana said calmly. But the people of Griffin deserve to know the truth. Langston stood. And for the first time, the mask fell. Micah Lawson is my son, he said. And I failed him. I failed this city. But I am standing with him now. Cameras clicked. The judge called for order. But the crowd's emotions flooded the room. Shock, pain, forgiveness, and finally, hope. The parking lot. Micah had just left the library downtown. It was late, almost 9 p.m. The parking lot was nearly empty. He opened his car door when he heard the voice. Out of the vehicle. Hands up. Now. It was Turner. Micah turned slowly, his heart thudding. Officer Turner, I haven't done anything. I'm leaving. Why were you parked out here alone? Waiting for someone. Micah shook his head. Just studying. I have finals. Turner stepped closer. You think you're smarter than me, huh? Always calm. Always clean. But you got a look in your eyes. Like you think you're better. Micah felt it then, the shift. The way Turner reached for his belt, the change in his breathing. Instinct told him to run. But he didn't. Turner lunged. The first shove knocked Micah to the hood of his car. Then came the chokehold. An arm pressed against his windpipe. His legs kicked. His fingers clawed the air. He heard a distant voice yelling. Hey, I'm recording this. The pressure eased. Micah gasped. Fell to the ground. A woman stood across the lot, phone raised. Turner stared at her. Then back at Micah. Micah coughed, voice raspy. I'm going to report you. Turner leaned down. You think anyone's going to believe you? But his voice cracked. Micah stared at him. He wasn't afraid anymore. Chapter 6. Everything changes. The video hit the internet the next morning. Micah had spent the night in the ER. Bruised trachea. Mild concussion. His mother stood by his bed, shaking with rage. We're going to court, she said. I don't care who he is. I don't care how many badges he has. By noon, #Justice for Micah was trending. And by 6 p.m., Mayor Langston saw the video. He dropped his phone. There was no mistaking it. The boy on the screen, gasping for air under Turner's arm, was the boy in the photo. His son. He whispered it like a prayer. Micah. And for the first time in his career, he didn't know what to do. The verdict. The jury deliberated for 6 tense hours. The city waited. Businesses closed early. School buses rerouted. It felt like the whole of Griffin was holding its breath. When the jury returned, the courtroom stood. The forewoman, a nurse named Evelyn Grant, read the decision. We, the jury, find the defendant, Officer Gregory Turner, guilty of aggravated assault, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice. A beat of silence. Then chaos. Tears, cheers, gasps, hugs. Turner's head dropped. He was led away in cuffs. Cameras captured every step. Micah sat frozen. Then he turned to his mother, eyes wet. We did it, Mom. We did it. A city reborn. The weeks that followed were historic. Griffin passed new policies, mandatory body cams, civilian oversight boards, and reform to use of force protocols. But it was more than policy. It was spirit. Micah became a symbol, not just of survival, but of justice. He gave interviews with poise, traveled to speak on panels, and helped start a nonprofit named after his late grandfather, the Lawson Line, an initiative for police transparency in small towns. Mayor Langston resigned a month later. His final act? Funding the community center Micah once volunteered at, with a library named in Micah's honor. He stepped away from politics, but not from Micah. They met weekly now, not as politician and scandal, but as father and son, the voice of the future. 1 year later, Micah stood at a university podium, freshman orientation. Pre-law major. Full scholarship. He looked out at the audience. Bright young faces. I didn't choose to be a symbol, but I chose what I did with the pain. He smiled. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the system doesn't change with silence. It changes with story, with truth, and with those brave enough to speak it. Applause echoed. His voice was steady, strong, not as a victim, not even just as a survivor, but as the voice that would echo long after the courtroom emptied. And the verdict? The real verdict was change.